Hello everyone, welcome to Nareen's MS. This is Nareen and it's time for a Friday Findings episode. Finally, we have reached the end of the week and there are some very exciting articles that I have to share with you today. The main ones that I do want to share do cover certain things that are maybe a little more adjacent to MS. But of course, both of these things, both of these articles actually do show a lot of progress, especially in terms of how the future might look for MS patients, both young and old, both recently diagnosed and those that are, have been diagnosed for a while. So yes, please do watch the rest of these videos, read the articles that are linked in the description section, and of course, please share your thoughts, your comments, your insights, and your experiences with any of the topics that were discussed in this video, so that we can get the conversation started, and of course we can pretty much build a better understanding for what content both of these articles actually have to share. But with that said, let's get started with the first article right now. So the first article that I'm going to talk about is probably more related to the MS um, tangent article that I was talking about. And this is that a team in University College London, or UCL, has actually developed a hydrogel based you know what you can almost say a chemical, a hydrogel based chemical that can actually prove to be much closer to the Axon model that actually is being used for MS than the current model. So what is currently happening? So usually when we have when we have MS as a medical condition, usually the one thing that is impacted is, of course, the myelin. And what the myelin does is it pretty much reduces, any protective covering, which is, of course, the myelin. And, as a result, it becomes a little difficult for the communication to happen between two different receptors of two different neurological receptors in our brain and spinal cord. Now these things are generally, axons are generally the path that are defined by that are pretty much defined for these uh, by these neurological receptors. And so as a result, the messaging is passed through these axons. Now usually, until now, what was usually done was there used to be a certain polymer that was used to pretty much create, or synthetically create this axon like model, so that the the drugs or the therapies were pretty much tested against. Now the issue was that these models that were using the previous models were generally a lot more sturdy. They were a lot more rigid, and so as a result, it was lacking in one of the basic ways that axons actually function, which is, of course, in a more fluid, a more bendy, if you may, way. And what this UCL team has actually developed is the hydrogel like formulation that they have created can actually mimic axons a little more, because it is more fluid, it is a little more bendy, it is definitely a lot more flexible. And what that means is that most of the therapies that are currently available for MS, while they functioned very well in the sturdy axon like model, which of course is not how axons work, while it showed a lot more efficacy there or a lot more efficiency there, with the new hydrogel like model that this team built, which was definitely a lot closer to how axons actually look like and behave. The efficiency for all of the different therapies actually went down, which means that actually having a more flexible, a more bendy sort of model would not only mimic how axons actually are in the brain, but also that now there is a better way to pretty much compare um, the efficiency and the efficacy of the new therapies that are coming out. So of course this is something that is of course great news, and like I said, it is not directly linked to MS, but of course it is something that can be very, very helpful in the future, when testing out new especially when testing out new drugs, new therapies, to see if it is going to be beneficial for MS patients, just to understand, how it will actually be functioning in how it will actually be functioning in the brain, with a more clear, a more accurate model of, the axons in the brain. So that was, of course, the first article, and of course you can definitely read more about the article. You can definitely read the article through the link on in the comment section, and of course let me know what your thoughts and opinions are of this. So that was article number 1. So let's get started with article number 2. Now, article number 2 definitely is a little bit, is something I am a little more excited about. It is something that was definitely discussed with me by a lot of people, and definitely I wouldn't call the list ending until I definitely mention the vice president of my previous company, who definitely saw my medical condition, saw me struggling with multiple sclerosis, and pretty much was the first person to say, what, you should try this. And at that point in time, there wasn't specific tests that were being done to show whether this was effective or not, but now there actually has been a small study done to show that this might actually be very effective. So this is of course talking about the exoskeletons that are being manufactured, are being used by medical patients for other conditions like stroke, to pretty much improve their walking, their gait, so that they are able to function a little better. Their quality of life, of course, improves as a result of using these exoskeletons. Now, there has been a little study conducted which actually shows that people with MS who actually have used such exoskeletons are seeing those benefits of actually improving their gait and their walking ability. Now, of course, this study that was conducted was relatively small. I think there were only about 21 patients that were tested, out of which only about, I think, 5 or 6 experienced um, worsening condition as a result of using these exoskeletons. Pretty much the rest of them actually showed a little more improvement. And of course, with these exoskeletons, the one thing that was definitely clear was that all of these patients definitely got a little bit of training using these exoskeletons before they were pretty much using them. But of course, upon using these exoskeletons, they actually saw an improvement in their walking, their gait. They even, one of the theories that actually came out was that, using these exoskeletons pretty much allowed these patients to build a habit of, how their gait should properly function. And then, of course, using um, the cognitive elasticity of our brains to pretty much develop the new or at least the improved walking style by using such such systems, right? By systems, I mean, of course, these exoskeletons. So of course this has been some amazing news, right? There hasn't been any specific article or any specific study that was conducted that can actually show whether using exoskeletons can actually improve walking for MS patients, especially those that do not have are not completely using a wheelchair, but still do have problems walking, do have problems with a lot of other definitely do have problems walking. So this of course is another thing that of course is such good news for, I'm pretty sure, a lot of patients who are in that area of or at least are MS patients that you know um, are able to walk but generally do not prefer walking as a result of the just the risk of falling, risk of hurting themselves as a result of them not having the proper balance, them not having the proper gait to be able to walk. So yes, please do let me know of what you think of this article. Please do share your thoughts, your opinions, and of course, you can always read this article through the link that I provided in the comment in the description section of this video. And do let me know what you think of people pretty much using exoskeletons as a means to pretty much relearn walking or just becoming a little better with their walking ability. So yes, that was article number 2. So do let me know what you think of it. So with these two articles, I'm pretty sure there is a lot of things that are going on with your in your head. There are definitely lots of things that are going on in my head as a result of reading these two articles. But one thing that definitely comes out is that neither of these two articles are really something that you know are you know very, I want to say, very directly linked to MS. I'm pretty sure the second article is a little closer as a result of being more of a therapeutic aid um, for or a walking aid for MS. But of course, both of these articles do show that there is definitely a lot of benefit that is going to come out in the near future as a result of such studies happening and such studies actually putting certain putting certain theories, putting certain research findings out. So yes, please do share your thoughts, please do share your inputs, please do share your insights, and of course your um, besides your insights, also your experiences, if you've actually had any experiences or any thoughts about anything that I've discussed. But with that said, I do know it is Friday, so I do want to wish you a happy weekend. And that said, hopefully you have a lot of things planned for your weekend. I think my weekend is going to be one of the weekends where I actually go back to business as usual, where I have the ability to sleep for an extended period of time. But with that said, here is me, Nareen's Life with MS. I am Nareen, and Here's wishing you a good night, sweet dreams, and of course, I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.